All right. Good morning, everybody. Shkrach all those who were sponsors and who came and who.
Our wonderful mother cheer.
No, but no, it's big schuss to to be learning this together. Very good. All right. So we got to plug away. So we left off actually a little bit short on Yud Aleph from today's first wide line towards the right at the bottom. Abba Reb Chia Bar Abba. So Reb Chia Bar Abba brings a question. So Rabbi Yechanan. So Amar Reb Chia Bar Abba. So says Reb Chia Bar Abba. So Rabbi Yechanan asks, Hamachzer grushaso mishenises tzarasamahu. So one who is machzer grushaso, right? So he remarried his ex-wife after she was married to somebody else, right? And that which she was married to somebody else, she was a complete marriage. It was the nesuah, right? So tzarasamahu. So Amarle Rabbi Ami he gufa. Why are you asking about the tzara? In other words, so a guy is machzer grushaso. Ruvain was married to a woman. He divorced her. She married somebody else, and then he took her back. And then he has two. Then now he has two wives. And then Ruvain dies. So the question is, when they fall to Shimon, so why are you asking? And then Shimon is his brother, right? So then he dies. Why are you asking about the tzara? Ask about her herself. Maybe the one who divorced. So he gufa, right? No, that we don't ask. Why? We say kavachayim. B'mutter la. So he says no. We have a kavachayim. Says b'mutter la asura. So b'asura lo kol shekain. So even if the one that he was mutter, right? She was asur. So therefore, that the brother, right? Certainly, right? His brother, right? Shouldn't she also be asur too? In other words, she was really asur to Ruvain. Ruvain shouldn't have taken her back, right? But he did. So certainly, you can make a kavachayim that since she was asur to him, right? Certainly asur to his brother. So that's why we ask, right? Lo kol shekain. He barely the tzara samai, right? What about the tzara? So milim kavachayim lemitchit tzara alone. Do we say this kavachayim to push off the tzara or not? And Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak Masni Hachi, he actually has a different version of the question. Amar Reb Chia Bar Abba, so it says Reb Chia Bar Abba, by Rabbi Yechanan, we would ask, Hamachzer Gusha, so Shani says, what is Machzer Gusha from after marriage? Mahu. So this is actually going on the Grusha, right? Not the Tzara. Similarly, Rabbi Ami, Tiboy Tzara. So why did she ask about the Tzara? So he says, Tzaras L'Kei right? Dim alim kavachaymer lemidchei tzara, right? So that it's not strong to push off the tzara. Ela kibayli he gufa, right? Samai miyalim kavachaymer l'makom esvalo. Do we say that the kavachaymer, right, is strong enough in makom or not? So for sure the tzara is mutter. The question is the grusha itself is what he was machzor grusha? So is she mutter or not? So Amar le tanisua, right? We actually learned this. In a previous brisa, and we actually learned this on the Yud Aleph on the base, right? So he says that is we had the case over there if one of them is ksher and another is psula. And then remember this, so the brisa goes on and explains what ksher psula is. If he's going to do chalitza, then do chalitza psula, he should do chalitza the psula one. If he does even to the one who's ksher. So my ksher, my psula. What does it mean ksher and psula? If it means that kshera means she's kosher to others, and psula means possibly alma. So in that case, in other words, let's say by a kohen, right? Should be very other kohen. So kohen l'didei chazia. What is since she's fit for him? Might not mean it. What's an afkamina? Why does he have to do the one who's, let's say he's not a kohen? So why does he have to marry the one who's who's kosher to kudo? Let him marry the one who's not, right? We don't care. Elav. What does kshera mean? Kshera lay. And psula means psula lay, the one who's puzzled to him. And my nihu, and what is that case? Machzor gushaso. The one who's machzor gushaso. And if he was going to do the yibum to kshera. So therefore, in this case, maybe it's referring to machzor gushaso. So the psula one was the one that Ruvain, right, when he remarried his divorced wife, and the kshera is the tzara. And it says, if he's going to do yibum with the kshera, i.e., so you see that the tzara is mutter. So the answer is low. Kshera lialma. Psula Yam really means no. Ksher means that she's kosher lakuna. Psula Milalma. The Gemara came in the day Chazia my nafkamine, and that which she said. Well, she said for him wasn't make a difference which one. So nafkamine. So Meshuvah the Rav Yosef, because we want to teach that which Rav Yosef taught in the case of chalitza. Then Rav Yosef kan shana Rebbe laishbach adam meibar b'achem tzrichen lehem. A person should not pour out his well water, right? If others need it. In other words, if he's going to go ahead and do chalitza, then do chalitza with the one who's already pasal kahuna, right? A grusha cannot go ahead and marry a kohen. So to a woman who had chalitza cannot marry a kohen. So therefore, if you're going to do chalitza, better to do chalitza with the one who is already divorced, and therefore the other woman, she just can't marry a kohen gadol, right? She's a widow because Reuben died, but she would be kasher l'kuda. Fine, tashma. Come and listen. Hamachzik b'shas Mishani says one who goes and remarries his grusha after she was married to somebody else. He v'tzarasa choletzes. So her tzara are choletzes. He v'tzarasa zagadaisa. Well, both of them. Ella ema ohi o tzarasa. So no, rather her or her tzara.
So after he married her, she should do the chalitza.
After
so that means he married.
He married them, right, and then right.
So chalitza after the marriage because it's a usher marriage.
Right. It does. Why can't you take for Yibum? No,
not why Yibum. I'm just asking about chalitza after they got married. It's like Grush, by only just.
Why is just mutter in general?
He died now.
Reuven died.
Well,
He's Maxer's grusha. Right.
Oh yeah.
Right. So Reuven is Maxer's grusha, and then he dies, and they both fall to Shimon. So we see over here that the tzara could only do chalitza, right? Do chalitza to the tzara or her herself. So this is a proof. So Gar says, I've left the roots of commentaries to that. Didn't you just change the lashon, right? The lashon of the brisa which was taught was he b'tzarasa chaletzes, and you just change it to be he tzarasa. So the Torah talking. So if you're going to change it this way, so it's not a kasha on me. He chaletzes, sarasa oy chaletzes o misebemes, right? She does chalitza, and the other one could do chalitza or yibum. So therefore, it's not a proof to say that the tzara cannot do yibum, because maybe the proper lashon was that the tzara does yibum, and the tzara can go ahead and marry Shimon. So Amar Rav Lili Bar Memo Amar Mar Ukva Amar Shmuel Tzaras b'mamenas. Now, Asura. So what's Tzaras b'mamenas? So now let's go back a little bit. So a father is allowed to go ahead and marry. The Torah gives the koyach to the father to go ahead and marry off his daughter, right? Even as a ketana. But if the man dies and he leaves over a daughter who's a ketana, so the Chazal, the Rabbanan, give the ability to the mother or even the older brother to go ahead and marry her off. But when she gets to basically around 12 and a half or 12, we'll soon see, right, in terms of her maturity, right? So she is allowed to do miyun. She's allowed to basically say, you know what, I don't want this marriage, right? I don't want this marriage. It was fine. He fed me when I was, 10, 11 years old. I wasn't in the streets, but nevertheless, I don't want it. And it's nullified. It's like it was never there. So now you have a case of a tzaras b'menas asura. So let's say you have the tzara, right, of a woman, right, for a b'menas, right?
Did Miyun already, or she has potential?
So let's see. So tzaras b'menas asura. So she's asur. So now the Gemara says, so the tzara, the one who was the co-wife of the one who did miyun, we'll soon see when miyun was done, right? Or if it was done, or maybe it's done afterwards. Tzaras b'menas asura. Salaman. If you're saying it's that the tzara is asur to the brothers, so hashta hi gufa sharia, right? The Amar Shmuel, right? Miyana b'zeh muteres b'zeh, right? Sarasni boy. So if she does miyun, right? If she does miyun to one of the brothers, in other words, she does miyun as if even afterwards, as if she was never married to the first guy, right? So she does miyun. So there's three brothers here. Yeah. So right. Exactly. So Reuven dies, and one of them is.
Request you on the polygons.
I forgot. All right, I hear you.
Point is still there.
All right, I'll try and maybe Bob. How's this? Bob is always the dyer,
Yeah.
right? And then the brothers Reuben and Shimon, right? So Bob dies, right? Bob dies, and so one of them, right? So one of them is a katana. So it says Shmuel over here, right? Miyana bezeh. If the katana does miyun with Ruvain, right? Because Bob died, right? Muteras bezeh, right? Then the other one is muteras anybody. Ela ladide. Rather, we're going to say that it means that the one that other words is she is usher, that Sarah is usher to the one who the miyun was done to. In other words, so she didn't miyun to him as if she was never married. Nevertheless, that Sarah is still usher, even though it turns out they were never co-wives. Why? Because she nullified the whole thing, right? But nevertheless, it's going to have the appearance of two women falling, right? Because this guy was married to, Bob was married to two women before he died, right? And therefore, so Elalizu, Maishna Mimenes, the Sharia, Lachin, so why is that Sarah to one of the brothers? If let's say Ruvain does she does miyun to Ruvain, why can the other one go ahead, right? Or why can she go ahead and marry Shimon? To love to Maisa. So sorry, Nami loved Maisa. By the so Maisa, right? So our answer is no. Zera b'shum Sarah's bita, right? But right? It's a ger because of Sarah's bita b'manas, right? So let's say. Right, if it wasn't just a katana, right, but the katana, we'll soon see, was his daughter, right? So the katana was Reuven's daughter. So she married her, yes, right? She married her uncle, and we're soon going to see a case in terms of how it's possible for, right? So as a katana, right? So now that was so Sarah's beat of a menace.
It's supposed to be dead right now.
Who?
Ruvain, no offense, I know.
Yeah, Ruvain is too complicated. Change your name. Yeah.
Meaning,
All right. Yeah.
meaning in the first place, she was
Right.
the brother would have had to do it, but here we're saying there's a case where somehow she can fall to her father.
So, right. So she's no. So she was married. So the two of them were married, right? And then Ruvain dies.
No. Meaning,
right?
If she was married as a katana,
right?
That means her
right.
father
Should have been dead. Yeah, like, right. Yeah. So right.
But
Question
somehow
is,
still
right.
alive.
Right. So we're right. So in a case of how do you find a case of menace right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Morning.
Oh, for everybody. Thank you to all of you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me this school to host it in my house. Thank you.
All right. So the Gemara says, Maisa says, he says no. Mishum tzaras bita menace. Right. The tzaras bita menace miyasira. Is that case? The tzaras bita aser. But time we learn in the Mishnah. V'chulan imesu omiyano tzarasei mutaros. Right. So all of the cases we have that if they do, right. We said this is a quote from our Mishnah, right? We said that if any of them do, right, miyun, right, then their tzaras are mutter. So who are they doing miyun to? If she's doing miyun by her husband, hainu grusha, right? That's no difference than her divorcing him. That's the case. Obviously, if she ended the marriage, right? Let's say his daughter was married to his brother, was married to Ruvain, and he divorced, right, Shimon's daughter, or Shimon's daughter did miyun. That marriage is over, and then when Ruvain dies, there is no tzara. So obviously, can't be the case. So who is she doing miyun to? El lavli yavam, right? It sounds like she's doing miyun to the yavam, right? And it says over there that the tzara is mutter. So that's low the elam babal. Really, she's doing the miyun of the baal, right? But trade gav gerushin, and why is this the case? Because two types of gerushin. One is the mama, she gives her a written star of divorce, and the other is the case of that there was, that she, nullified the marriage because she was married by her mother or her sister, and she didn't want to remain married after she was a katan. And what's the reason why she does the mean by Baal Dakin the Suan? The Suim Kamai Ka'akra, right? So, but wait. If you say that she's still usher, so I understand. If she does miyun by the first guy, she nullifies, right, the marriage. So she's doing miyun now afterwards, right, to the brother, basically saying, I didn't want to be married to Reuben in the first place, it should be nullified. Therefore, it's like she never fell, right? There should be no Zika. It's like she never fell to Shimon.
But she already did the action of being
Married?
getting rid of her kids.
No, but
Means yes, retroactively the marriage was never something, but she already do. She already went through the act of
being married? No, but she didn't do anything to make it. Only it was after. After the guy was married.
She was good, then it was as if she did nothing, and now we have to redo chalitza.
No, there's no chalitza was done yet.
I'm saying now she would have to have a kids.
No. So we're saying that what's the difference? If she rejects the marriage while she's married to a guy, she can do it. But if the guy dies when she's 11, she didn't have the opportunity yet to do miyum. So all of a sudden she's still waiting for yibum, right? The brothers are taking their time. She wants to do miyum and then rejects, say, I never want to be married to him in the first place. That should nullify everything. It's like she never felt to chalitza, and therefore there's no tzara, and therefore it's not related. And she should be able to go off scot-free. And it's like there's only one person who was married. So our answer is Mishum Datani Rami Bar Yecheskel. Because Rami Yecheskel is Datani Rami Yecheskel, Miyanu Baal, if she does miyun with the husband, with teres love, right? Then she's mutter to the father. Right? She's mutter to the father because she was never married. So she's mutter to Yaakov, right? She did miyun to Ruvain, right? So she's mutter to Yaakov, right? However,
when she's married as a katana, they never have relations.
Even then, right? They made the bias of bilas nus, right? They just made it as nus, and it's not bias kedushin. So he says biyavam, but if she does mean by the yavam, asur the yavam, right? Alma mishas nafila nires kikalaso. Why? Because of right during the time of when she fell, even though she did miyun afterwards, right? She did miyun afterwards, basically saying that which I felt to yibum really didn't count because I'm doing that. Because in Nires Kikalaso, it appears that she fell. People won't know the specifics of the situation. They'll know that her husband died. They won't know that she nullified the marriage after the death. And it'll appear like Kalaso. The doors of this is Motzach. So in this case, Mishas Nafila Nires Tzaras Biso. So over here, she will appear like the Tzaras. So therefore, even in this case, though, when she nullifies it, nevertheless, it'll appear that the tzara of a miyana, right, the one who does miyun, right, really fell with an erva, and we allowed the tzara to get married. So therefore, to prevent that, we say it's a gzeira because of that case. And Amar Rav Asi, tzaras islandess asura. The tzara of an islandess is asur. So, now an islandess is a woman who basically, by the age of 20, never shows physical signs of being able to give birth, and it turns out that she'll never be able to have a baby. So it's called an islandess. So if so palan is v'shena yoledes, right? That excludes an islandess that doesn't give birth. So now, normally a woman, right, is married to a brother, right? Let's say two of them are married to Ruvain, and both of them are also to Shimon. Why? Because it's my brother's wife, right? Brother's wife. But if there's a mitzvah, he dies, and there's a mitzvah to take the wife. But if there's no mitzvah on this girl, because the pasuk says, right, to give birth, and she can't give birth later on, there's never a mitzvah to take her. If there's never a mitzvah to take her, she's still my brother's wife. It's still an erva. So therefore, her tzara is also her co-wife.
It's our function was to have children. Alonit. That's the name. Alon is for beauty.
Right,
So,
but over here,
I mean, alon from alone.
לא, זה כמו מלשון
Alonit, look.
I לא זה מלשון זכר. היא נראית כזכר. עין.
right. So lashon of not having islandess is a lashon of is barren, being not showing physical signs of maturity to give birth. So islandess. So the pasuk says, right, palanas sheina yoledes, that she cannot give birth. So Meister Rav Sheshes asks the question: Shaloisha achin nesuin shaloish nashim nachrios. Right. So you got three men that they marry. Three women nachrios, right? Now over there in this case, so three men marry three women. nachios, right? One of them dies. So you have three brothers, right? One of them dies, right? And then the second one, right? One of them does mimer. Now mimer is only, it's like it's kedushin. It's kedushin, right? Like we have kedushin. There's two steps. There's kedushin and asum. Okay, but now, right? This is done by yibum. By yibum, you're not. There's no kedushin. You just right. You go straight to the nesuin, right? You go straight. You go ahead. You're kind of her. You acquire her with bia, with relations, right? So over here, instead of doing the bia and the yibum, he gives her like harei mikudash li. All of a sudden, that creates a dirabanan type of marriage. So if Reuven dies, Shimon does mimer, right, with her, right? So she falls in, she does mimer, so it's like half married, right? So what happens? Then and then Shimon dies. Shimon, right, the one who did mimer. So one was completely his wife, and the other one was like a shtickle his wife, also shtickle Reuven's wife, right? Because he did mimer, but she never really completed, right, the zikr in that case, right? So umeis, harei elu chotzes lo meisevem. So this they do chalitza na'yibim. Shnemar umeisach hamehem. Huh? To Levi, right? So Levi is right. Umeisach hamehem yavam evola. So mishal zikas yavam echad v'lo zika shnei yivam. So therefore, only one you only do zika, you only do yibum, right? If she has she falls from one brother, but this she's falling from two brothers because she still really has some of the zika left because it was only mimer that was performed from Ruvain, and then it falls from Shimon also.
Wouldn't it be the same case if both brothers just like died in a car accident at the same time?
No, because then
No,
each one would
because
have one.
Yeah, because they were nachrios. They weren't related to each other, right?
Okay, thank you.
And Amar Rav Yosef,
Got it.
and Amar Rav Yosef, Zohi Tzaras Eishes Ach Me'av, right? This is considered a case of Eishes Ach, right? The wife by the brother from Me'av, she Isser Nefel Garemla, right? No, is that the Isser that which she fell is also them because really she's Isser from the marriage of the brother. Now, normally the marriage of the brother is what creates the Yibum, but over here the marriage to the brother is actually what ruins it because she basically has two marriages to two brothers, right? And therefore it's no good. We don't find any case like this. And that says over there, Zohi, right? This case, right? This case. So what's that? So Tzaras Islandus, the Sharia, right? Maybe it's excluding the case of the Tzara of an islandess, which is mutter. Cigars in the low. No, really, no. The mutter Tzaras Island is no. It's Tzaras. No, the mutter Tzaras Islandess the Asira. No, that case is still Asir. He. My Zohi. What's Zohi in this case? Zohi does the Nefila Garam La. This is a case where the Nefila caused it, and however Tzarasa by Chalitza. In this case, the Tzara requires Chalitza. Now, in this case, it requires Chalitza. However, island is Nefila Chalitza, but in the case of the island is where the woman, whether she falls over or not falls over, she falls to Yibum, and there really is no. She still has the Isser of Eishes Ach, and she doesn't fall at all. And since there's no Isser Eishes Ach, therefore there's no Chalitza required at all. Right? So Chalitza, islands, I feel Chalitza boy. So my time was the reason Hadaraisa Hadarabban. Right? Because one is Deraisa, but Deraisa, she's part. The Torah says that only a woman to go ahead and give the brother's name, but she can't go ahead and have a child, so therefore she doesn't fall at all. But this case is Derabanan, and therefore, because there's the Zika, the mimer was Derabanan, she was partially married to Shimon, because through the Kedushin, and she was also still never took care of her Yibum from Ruvain, therefore that's the reason Midrabanan, she has like two Zikas, right? But if it was nothing, if the mimer was nothing on a Deraisa level, then she would really only be falling from Ruvain, because she never did Yibum or Chalitza, she just did this mimer.
In this case, 3 brothers and 3
Yeah.
Krios.
Yeah.
Now, when she falls to Shimon, and then he does mimer with
Right.
her, and then he dies. So the co-wife, meaning they're only co-wife sort of, because
Right.
he was married to her. The co-wife doesn't fall to Levi either, even because the first one.
So that was the case. We said that. So that was the case of here. We said they do chalitza.
Right.
By chalitza, right,
One and two.
right. No, both of them,
They're both
because maybe she's not the co-wife, and maybe he's only, and maybe for the zika, the chalitza is only for the first one, right? So, Tanan, the chulani mesu. So listen, the Mishnah says chulani mesu omiyano onis garshon nishamus island is sasem. So it says there, tsaras are mutter. So wait, our Mishnah says, right, that Oceanim, so islandess. If she turns out to be an islandess, that Sarah, right, goes free. There's no chalitza, there's no nothing, right? So it's same with Toros, right?
No.
So, no, that what's no. So you say
Right.
right, the yibum, right, yeah. So that right, you yibum. So in that case, the kulani mesu, right, from before, right, before the marriage, or islandess, Oshanimsu, right. So Isaac Lakasha, kan shehikirba, kan shehikirba. If the husband knew, right, that she was an islandess during the time of the marriage and he didn't care and he was remained married to her, so then this is my marriage, and he recognized her as his wife, and therefore, right, then therefore that she's considered to be co-wife, and therefore she would be the Sarah ben Erba. But if it was the case of where he was married to her and he didn't know, right, she was 18 when he died, right, and then it turns out she was 20, she's still never physically matured. So there's a mekach tos. He didn't know that his wife was like that. So if that case she was nimtzu islandess, she turned out to be an islandess, then it was like he wasn't really married to, and therefore, and that's the case of Tzarasei Mutaros. It says with Shenimtsu, it turned out she was, right? It didn't turn out that she was an islandess. It means it turns out she was an islandess during the time when they're waiting for Yibum, and therefore, Shema Mina, indeed, that's the case. And Amar Rava says, Rava Hilchasa, the halach is Tzaras islandess, Mutaros. The tzara of an islandess is mutar v'afilu hikirba, and even if he recognized her, right, from before, right, when he's married to her, so she is mutar v'afilu tzaras bito, islandess, and even if it was a tzara of the bito, right, was an islandess, it appears like the case of bito, it's still okay. The tzara it was a tzara of an erva. The ella hadaktani shenimsu. Right, that case says shanim. So that's when they just think over here, and in that case that says that he didn't know. So what does it mean shanim? So Tani Shayu rather say should have said Shayu. And Kiyasa Ravin Amar Rabbi Yechina achas saras menas, whether she's the tzara of one who does mean achas saras islandess, achas saras machzor gushaso, kulon mutaros. All of them are mutar to go ahead and to do yibum with the brother.
Does it cover the issue that he didn't have children altogether from the Sarah too, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, because if he had a child, then everything is all good.
Because of her, not because of him. It doesn't cover.
No,
that
because
area.
she physically,
Because
right,
we
yeah,
don't
but
because of him.
right, but she
So,
physically
We
doesn't.
don't give the chance for her.
Right.
Not a person.
No, but she doesn't show signs of physical maturity anywhere.
Oh,
It's-
she,
right.
That's a.
So Tani Rav Bibi Kamid Rav Nachman Shloish Nashim Meshamshos B'Moich. So there are three women can go ahead. Three types of women can go ahead and use birth control, right? So katana, muberes, umanika. A girl who's a katana, a young girl, right? Umaberes, a woman who's pregnant. Umanika, a nursing person. Katana shem tzaber v'shem tamus. A katana, if she's too young, perhaps she'll get married, perhaps she'll get pregnant, and then perhaps she'll die from the pregnancy. She's too young to really to be pregnant. Muberes, if she's a woman who's nursing Shabbatasa Ubrasan. What is it? Married? Yeah. Okay. I'm just. Oh yes, nursing. All right. Muberes, if she is pregnant, the Shabbatasa Ubrasan. Right. Perhaps she'll go ahead and get pregnant again, and then basically sort of crush the first fetus, right? And Minika, woman's nursing, Shema Tigmo Banaviyamas. Perhaps she'll get pregnant, and then she won't be able to produce milk, and then the baby that she's nursing will die. Vezi Katana, what's it? It's a Katana Bas Yud Echad Shana, Yom Echad, Ad Yud Bei Shana Yom Echad, from the 11 years and a day until 12 years and a day. Pachas Mikan V'Yesem V'Yeser Alkein. Before this, earlier than this, she's 10 or younger, or older than that, older than 12. Mishamezus Kedarka V'Holechas Divrei Meir. Then she goes ahead and she's be Mishamesh Kedarka, normal, normal relations, and not have to go ahead and do any sort of birth control. No, even these cases, and does from the Shemaim, they'll be merachim upon this woman. Pasuk says, right? Because
That's regarding to all three.
all three. And therefore, say no, she can be Meshemez's Kedarka. Now, by the fact it says if she's a minor, we're going in that case when she's 11 years old, perhaps she'll become pregnant. V'shema right? V'Shema Thomas, and perhaps she'll die. Michlal, Deika Katana, Dimiyaver V'Loi Mesa. It sounds like there's a katana that can get pregnant and not die. It says Shema Tisabra, right? But Shema Thomas, perhaps she'll die. So she might or might not, right? Right? If that's the case, we find a case. We said earlier that a case. Oh, we can never find a case of your mother-in-law, right? When she was either a case of miyun, right? Because miyun is done when miyun is done. When she's younger, when she was a katana, right? Or his mother-in-law can't be an islandess, right? Because his mother-in-law can't be an islandess because obviously his mother-in-law had to be able to give birth to his wife, right? So therefore, in those cases, don't exist, right? Because a katana can't have, right? And an islandess can't give birth. But what do we see over here? Oh, Shimianu, or he can't find a case with his mother-in-law, or right, or father-in-law, or his right, the mother-in-law, or the mother of his mother-in-law, right, were turned out to be an islandess, or did Mia. So my answer now, Ema Shema Tis'aver B'Tamus. Perhaps she will become pregnant and die. In other words, if she becomes pregnant at a young age, then she'll surely die. Now. So he says no. There. So he said that she has a certain time. A gul yeshla kodem hazman hazeh before this time. Eina misaberes kolik because she doesn't get pregnant at all. Teich hazman hazeh. However, during the zman of basically when she's 11, he mesav ubra mes that she would die, and her vlad would die. Liachar zman zeh. But however, after this time, he chayav ubrachai, right? She would live, and her child would also survive after the age of 11. In this case, so Gemara says, "Amy, Vatani Rabba Bar Shmuel, Iata Yacholoma B'Chamas Veim Chamas Veim Chamav Shenimsu Islands Shenimsu Shekfar Yoldu." It says there that you can't do it because they already, right? Shekfar Yoldu, they already gave birth. So you see over there, Shekfar Yoldu doesn't mean because they can't get pregnant. It means that they already give birth. That's how, right? So what do you do? So Eliyom Shemet Zaver Shemet Tamus. Rather, we'll say that really maybe it means that perhaps she'll get pregnant, right? And perhaps she'll go ahead and she would die. Well, the kasha was, you see over here that it is possible, right, to do miyun after you give birth, right? That is possible. Right? The whole reason, right, we don't allow, we do miyun at the age of 12. We have to wait till she's a gedolah. So usually around 12 is when she's a gedolah. But there is no, right, if she has a child, she gives birth, that's better than her, having to show simanim, right? Showing that, black hairs, right? She shows she's already starting to mature, right? There's no bigger proof than her physical maturity than her giving birth. So therefore, obviously, if she gives birth, she's already a gedolah. There's no time. You can't do mean anymore. You've been a gedolah, right? And so instead of East Dam, some say no, banim adiva b'simanim. That giving birth is even greater than simanim. So lamai nafkamina. What's nafkamina? Whether they say hare banim kesimanim or that it's adiva b'simanim. Lamai nafkamina. Dafilu Rabbi Yehuda. Even called Rabbi Yehuda Domer ad shiyar b'hashachar, who holds that her physical maturity is not just 2 hairs, rather until that there's mostly black hair, right, in the makom erva. Right, but banim maida in the case of she gives birth, right? We didn't even check maida over there. In that case, that's even greater, right? That banim is even better. Rav Zvid Omar aim banim below simanim. So Rav Zvid says, right? So Rav Zvid says that there is no children without simanim, right? So the Gemara says, what do you mean there's no children? I believe though. Go ahead and so why are you saying that if she gave birth, then obviously she has simanim. So just go check. So the Gemara says, no, you can't check. Why? Perhaps they fell out. So that works according to the opinion who says that we're chayshesh, that perhaps that a girl was once physically mature and some of the hairs that she had fell out. But what other opinion who says we're not worried about that. That in the normal case, you're right, we're not chayshesh, they would fall out. However, in the case of birth, maybe from the pain of childbirth, maybe that there was hairs and it fell out, and therefore giving birth itself is a siman in itself. Fine, 2 dots. I'm not sure if this is the first 2 dots from the Mishnah, but this is two dots next case, next topic of the Mishnah. So he said, Kate said, started saying, how do they pater the tsaras? This is going back in the general cases, right? The one of the women, they fall to Yibum, right? One of the 15 cases, and it turns out, so Reuven dies, right? Reuven dies, and the two of them fall to Shimon. If one of them was Shimon's daughter, Shimon's mother-in-law, Shimon's something, then her and her tzara are done. They can go off and do whatever they want, unless there's other brothers, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, then they go ahead and do Yibum with them. Now, Minahari Mili, Amrav Yudam B'derek Havis Asher Litzor. It says Litzor. HaTorah Rivs Atzaras Harbe. So it says Litzor, right? So it says over there that they are the Lashon Rabbim of Litzor. That it was the tzara, the co-wife, and therefore it says not only they are Aser, right? The pasuk, which is on the side. No. V'isha l'chaysa leisichach Litzor legalos ervasa, right? So it says over there, not her sister, and also her sister's co-wife, right? Let's hear Hatara Yimsa Sarah's Harbe. Ravash Yamar Svari Sarah, my time Asira to Makom Erva Kaima. So Sarah Nami Makom Erva Kaima. So the reason now, in addition to the Sarah, we said if one of them goes ahead, let's say there's two wives, right? And so they both fall to Shimon, right? Let's say Reuven's daughter. Reuven was married to two women. One of them was was Shimon's daughter, right? So now, the daughter and the tzara are both pater from Shimon, right? But they have to go to Levi or Yehuda, right? So in that case, if the tzara goes ahead and marries Levi, okay, goes ahead and marries Levi, right? And he has another wife already, a pre-existing wife, right? And then Levi dies, right? So now, maybe Levi dies. Maybe the tzara now can go ahead and do Yibum with Shimon. But since this girl, right, Nancy, was the tzara of his daughter, therefore she's pater. And it goes down like that. So tzara is aser. So one learns from the pasuk of litzur, right, which is plural, right, and the Ravashi learns the pasuk of svara, right. So since once she falls, right, and she's the tzara of an erva, she herself is now an erva to Shimon. So therefore, when she falls again from Levi, the tzara was already established erva, and now her new co-wife also becomes a tzara to Shimon, and therefore it wouldn't fall to Shimon. That was Ravashi's svar. Fine. 2 dots. So Ketzad, what's the case? Mesu hein v'chule. So afilu kana. Now we said in a normal case, right? The co-wives, right, are if it's just a co-wife to somebody who was a co-wife, not married to a brother, right? So Reuven's daughter was just married to Bob, right? And Bob had 2 wives. So the co-wife it does not become usher, right? The case of where a tzara in a non-yibum place is mutter, right? Means it didn't marry. She didn't marry my brother. Just marries a stranger, and the guy has 2 wives. One of his 2 wives is my daughter. My daughter's co-wife, right, is not usher to me. The guy dies, and I can go ahead and marry her co-wife, right?
Yes, children.
Right. Right.
No
What was that?
Yes, children, so therefore there's no evil, therefore he.
Or even
Right. Say it again.
When that guy dies.
Right. Yeah, or divorce. Yeah. But let's see the Gemara goes. Let's see. So yeah, filu kanas uvasav giresh. Now, but we've had in a case that if at the time of when they fell, right, that they were divorced, right, or not married at the time when he died, then the tzara would be mutter. The verse is afilu kanas uvasav giresh. Even if he went ahead and he married her first, and then he divorced, afilu kanas uvasav giresh, right? And then he died, right? So afilu kanas uvasav giresh. So if they're married at the same time, but he divorced her first, right? Then it's okay. Either, I mean, 3 brothers, all right, let's do this case again, right? So we have 3 brothers, Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Each married 3 women. However, Reuven and Shimon married sisters. They married Rachel and Leah, all right? And one of them married Nancy, not related to any of them. Okay, Levi married Nancy. Let's say one of the brothers, let's say the middle guy, Shimon, right, divorced his wife, right? He divorced her. One of the sisters. He divorced one of the. And now Levi dies, right? The Kansa Megarish. Now he got divorced, right? Shimon got divorced earlier, and so he takes Levi's right. He takes Levi's wife, right?
He doesn't take her to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he says the Kansa Megarish, right? No, he gives the Yibum over there. He takes her, right? He marries her. Now Umes. Now he dies. Okay, so he dies. So a lady dies. Umes. Zoy Shamru. She'im Mesa on his garshutz are semutaros. Now, in this case,
So you're allowed to be married to two sisters.
now let's see. No, so let's say if he was still married, right, to the sister, okay, and he died, so that she is also then she would not fall to Reuven because it's his wife's sister. In addition, that Sarah would not fall because she's the co-wife, right? But in this case, he divorced her first. Right? This case, he divorced her. So they weren't actually married at the same time, right? So in this case, she made on his garshut, so say mutaras. So what's the reason why? Tama the garsh kanas. It sounds like only because he divorced the sister first, and she was never co-wife with the sister. However, but if let's say he went ahead and he did yibum to Levi's wife, to Nancy, and he was still married to Leah, and then he divorced Leah. Right, and then he died, so there was no co-wife. Then it would be usher because they were co-wives at one time, but only sounds like the Zman Afila wouldn't be good. So Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, so he says Tavra, says you're right. Mishnah Zoloshana Zo. It sounds like that the our Mishnah sounds like even if he married her at the same time, but as long as at the time of death they weren't co-wives, then she's not a tzara of an erev and it'll be okay. But this brisa seems to teach that no, even if at any time they were married, they were co-wives, even if he divorced her and then died afterwards, that she would be a tzara. That would be that wouldn't be okay. So Mishnah Zol high Tanasara Misas Mapelas and the high Tanasara and the Suan Arishon in Mapilin. One says no, that the Misa, the death, causes the Zman of the Isser, and the other one says no, that it holds that the marriage, as long as they're married at the same time, once she's married at the same time, then that creates the Yisr. And Rova Marliyelam Chatani. You realize it's both. The Zov ain't circle Zov Tani. Right? And maybe it's just teaching you that one cheshav the other. If they were married at the same time, right? So then for sure that if they even if he divorced her, right? And even if he divorced her, but they were married at the same time, right? Then she's mutter. And certainly, right? If he only married her after, right? Only married her after he divorced her, certainly he would be married to go ahead and take her tzara in that case. Then it says over there, and if she able to go ahead and do miyun, so the Gemara says, let her go ahead and do miyun now, right? And then do yibum. In other words, let her go ahead and do to do Mimer, to do miyun. If there's two women fall, one of them is a katana. Let one of them, and she's the erva. Let her do miyun, and then the other can go ahead and marry. But tisyabim, right? So the Tamim Hashem tisyabim. So leim b'sayle let Rabbi Yosha. Let's say it's Rabbi Yosha. Dam Rabbi Yosha menes l'maimer of eino menes l'zikasa. She can only do mimer, right? Or excuse me, only do miyun, right? Menes l'maimer to kedusha d'Rabbanan. You know, only the miyun only works to the brother, the one who died, right? But once she falls to yibum, she can no longer do miyun on the zika, on the fact that she's now tied to the brothers, and says, you know what, I was never in the first place, I'm not flying to you. So the Gemara says, lo, saras ervashan. No, so he says, no, in this case, we say that you can't even do it in this case. Don't say this is a proof for that. We say because since over here is that saras erva is different, and therefore we don't allow her to go ahead and do me in this case. the tiny Rabbi Recheskel Miana Baal, Mutaris Liaviv, if she is Mian to the husband, then she's mutter to the father, or to her husband in a regular case, then she's mutter to his father. Mian Yavam, but she does Mian to the Yavam if her husband, when she's a Ketana, dies, and then she has the Yavam, she does Mian there, Asur Liaviv, then she's also with the father, right? Alma Mishas Nafil in there, it's Kikasa. Why? Because at the time when she fell to Yibum, it appears that she is, she's falling. She's the daughter-in-law. So Hachanami Mishas Nafila near is Tzaras Bito. Right over here, it appears like she is the tzara of the daughter, and therefore, right, we don't want, right, if at one point they appear to be two tzaras, and one of them is an erva, and she does miyun. It's like she was never married to the first guy. Therefore, it's not a case of a tzara. It's only a single girl. It would appear that he's taking a tzara of an erva, and therefore we do not allow that case because it has the appearance of taking a tzara of the erva, and therefore we do not allow any miyun after he dies. Fine. Now Mishnah. We got the next Mishnah, right? Waiting for this. Now, Sheish Arayas Chamurais. So we say Me'elu. So we say over there, there's even 6 more Chomer. Our first Mishnah had 15 cases. So the 6 cases, which he mentioned these before, that are Chamuros Me'elu, that are more Chomer, because they can never go ahead and marry his paternal brother. They're only marry others, and therefore the Tzaras will be mutter. And what are those cases? So, and in those cases, the Tzaras are mutter because they were never married to the brother, because they can't be. Imo, right? His mother, right? My brother, my paternal brother can never marry my mother, right? Even if it's not, his own mother also, even says, from else, because he can't marry my father's ex-wife. V'yesh is Aviv, and the wife of the father, V'achas Aviv, and my father's sister. Achaisa Aviv, or his paternal sister, his brother can't marry her ever. V'eish is Achi Aviv, or the wife of my father's brother. V'eish is Achiv Me'aviv, or the wife of my brother from the father. And Beis Shammai Matirin. Now, going back into the case of the first Mishnah, Beis Shammai Matirin Hatzaros, the Achim. Beis Shammai doesn't hold of the Tzaras saying Asuros. Hey, no Tzaras saying, hey, ho, they no. The Tzaras are fine. No problem. Beis Shammai Matirin Hatzaros Le'achim. Because they want to bring that case. But, I guess when they're all Mashas together, yeah. So, Beis Hillel, Imrim. We did say earlier that Beis Shammai Beis Hillel was nothing, right? We saw that earlier. Beis Hillel Beis Hillel says Beis Hillel says no, it's Aser. The Aser, like we taught in the previous Mishnah, they went according to that. And Choltzu, if they do Chalitza, Beis Shammai Paisim Akuna, they say in these cases they're Pasim Akuna, Beis Hillel Machshirin, and Beis Hillel says, right? If right, Beis Hillel says Machshirin because it's nothing. Right, Beis Hillel says it doesn't make you a chalutza just because you remove a shoe and spit it in the ground and reject it, because you didn't have to reject because you're completely patur in the first place. So it doesn't make them a chalutza in terms of marrying a kohen. If they do yibum, Beis Shammai machshir. Beis Shammai says machshir because it says they're supposed to do yibum, right? It's a perfectly good marriage. Beis Hillel paislan, and Beis Hillel says no, that's actually not a good thing, right? Because your nivelis does somewhere is usher to you, right? And it became a zona. And even according to these are Asr and these are Mutter, Elu Paisim Elu Machshir, and also Beis Hillel and Shammai argue that these are Pasul, these are Machshir. Loinimnu Beis Shammai Melise Nashim Beis Hillel, right? Veloy Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, right? Beis Shammai did not stop from marrying the women of Beis Hillel, and Beis Hillel did not stop from marrying the women of Beis Shammai. In other words, they still marry one another. Obviously, according to their shitas, right? They had to make sure that it wasn't someone according to the shita would be okay, but it wasn't like they were separated.
Or you can just say these cases never really happened.
Yeah. All right. We'll soon see the Gemara. The Gemara is actually going to analyze this, right? And also, when it comes to Tumat Tahara, even though some say Tar and some say Tame, they would still not prevent them from using one another's utensils. Fine. Zuk the Gemara, just a couple more minutes. I know we're a little late today. So, my time to Beis Shammai was calling Beis Shammai. The Chsiv, the pasuk says, why is it Sarah is mutter? Right? The Chsiv lo'isiyah eishes hameis hachutza lishzar. So it says it should not be the lo'isiyah eishes hameis, right? Chutza lishzar. So chutza michlad ika panimus, right? Right. So it says over there that Amrachmana lo'isiyah. So it says over there that only the Pnimis one, she is the one who is not. The Erva she is not the one who's allowed to be taken. However, the other one, right, that the tzara, right, of the erva is right is able to the tzara is able to go ahead and should marry. Why? Because she shouldn't be to ish zar. So the one who's chutza, the outer one, not the prima, not the erva, but the chutza one shouldn't be to ish zar, meaning she falls to Yibam. He says no. So he says no. He says we use that pasuk for something else. Because Rav Yehuda bar Marav, how do you know that kedushin does not go ahead and work? The pasuk says lo yisiya eishes hameis hachutz leizar. It says she shouldn't lo yisiya, right, which is kedushin lo yisiya, but havil lazar. No, there should be that the Lycia Havil Lazar. Now they shouldn't have the kedushin to an izar. Rather, right, it should only be with the yavam. So it says ubeisila miksiv lachutz. Doesn't say lachutz. Chutza ksiv. It says chutza, and therefore it means the outer sarah, and not referring to the type of kedushin. Kevan dechsiv chutza, keman dechsiv lachutz dami. It says lachutz Tanya, right? Chutza and lachutz mean the same thing. Tanya Rabbi Nechemya, Meir Kol Teva Shetzich Alama B'Tchilasa Hitila Kasav Hey B'Seifa. Right? If it's supposed to be a lama, but there's a hey at the end, then it means the same thing. But Tanya Rabbi Shmuel Kagon, Elim, Elima. It says Elima, which means two Elim, or Machanai, Machanaima, right? Mitzrayim, Mitzrayim, Divla Asiyama. Yerushalmiya and Midbara. So those are examples of the hay is at the end. So over here, chutza means lachutz, right? So therefore, she just shouldn't be lachutz, not referring to a drasha to say that the chutza one that's tzara is mutter to the yavam and not to nizar. Ubei Shammai, Rav Yehuda Marav min alu. So where do they know that if an outside person does right? Let's see how the ish mace knows if she has kedushin with somebody else on the outside while she's waiting for Yibum, it's nothing, right? So Rav Yehuda Marav min alu. So me'ili ish zar nafka says le ish zar, right? So Beisil Nami typically me ish zar. Once for the ish zar, say nachanami. Chutza lamali. If that's the case, I say chutza larabos arusa, right? So it goes over there to even a case of erusin, not just masul, but if a woman only is mikadeshes, right? She doesn't have the full marriage, but she's only betrothed. Nevertheless, such a woman falls to Yibum. Avidach mechutza hachutza. Since it says chutza, but it says hachutza, the extra hey learns it. Avidach chutza hachutza lo masha. But that one says chutza hachutza. He doesn't learn from there. Let's just stop here. I don't want to. It moves, but we'll stop here. So tomorrow, Mr. Shem, a little bit short. So tomorrow, Mr. Shem will try and catch up with the next.